little over 3 years ago, November, and she hasn't been on any medication since. She actually started walking around the mall when she was in Panama, and then when she got home, she's completely, pain-free, and she's been pain-free for 3 years. And her husband finally retired because he didn't care about, having the insurance to pay for these very expensive drugs that she was taking. So MS, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus. We don't have a lupus protocol. There's a group in China that's published 6 really good papers on lupus. It's very, very effective in their trials. We haven't done it yet. And then autism, it's not considered an autoimmune disease, but we have a trial. We just completed our autism trial with 33 enrollees with very good results. Many of those kids became non-autistic after treatment.
So that's confusing to me because you're talking about people that are young, right? So why would it have such a benefit for them?
Well, I wrote an article in 2007 about why these cells should be good for autism, and basically, it's the most downloaded article this journal's ever had. I mean, something like 75,000 people have downloaded a scientific journal article, which really doesn't happen very often. But people with autism have inflammatory things going on in their body. A lot of times in the gut, there are at the end of the small intestine, there are these inflammatory nodules that look a lot like Crohn's disease, and they secrete this inflammation that then goes to the brain, inflames the white matter of the brain. The white matter of the brain swells, decreases the blood flow to the brain. All that's intertwined. And then just a few years ago, there was a study that came out, and this is what allowed us to go forward with our clinical trial. They found that there are these 2 inflammatory molecules that are MDC and TARC, and they perfectly correlate with the severity of symptoms of autism. And so we measured not only those 2, but another 30-some biomarkers. We did quantitative EEGs. We did a lot of standardized scoring with a neurologist that read them, before treatment, during treatment, after treatment. So I believe a lot of the problems with autism stem from the inflammatory status, and these cells are definitely anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, they've had some benefit with changing the diet and changing the gut biome of kids with autism. And they've made some benefits for that, and which they believe is also connected to inflammation.
Yeah, absolutely. If your immune system's freaking out every time you eat a piece of bread, and that immune system's throwing out molecules that are swelling your brain and inflaming your brain, then it makes complete sense. And I think in general the people with autism that do the best are the ones that get that addressed before they come down. There's some other doctors that do functional medicine. They look at their diet, they look at see if they have any heavy metals and that sort of thing. And the ones that just are slam dunk, do the best, have been cleaned up before they come down.
Wow. So what about heart disease? You were talking about people that have heart issues?
Yeah, we have a number of patients with heart failure that have responded quite well.
Heart failure.
So
heart attack, need of a transplant, that kind of thing?
Yeah, on transplant lists and that sort of thing, yeah. So
I have a friend who's on a transplant list.
Yeah, right. So there are different kinds of heart failure, and the interesting thing about heart failure is the cells don't need to go to the heart and to actually become new heart cells and that sort of thing. It's actually the secretions of the cells. Like I said before, there was a study at University of Buffalo where they injected cells IV in a hamster model of heart failure, and then they looked in the heart, and there were very few cells, but the heart failure got better. And then they said, let's inject those same cells. These are umbilical MSCs. Inject them into the hamstring muscle, and they demonstrated that none of the cells came out of the hamstring muscle, and yet the heart failure got better. So then they took just the juice, the liquid that the cells secrete, and they started simulated the amount of juice that the cells would have produced in the body, and just injected the juice, and the heart failure got better. So it's really the secretions of the cells stimulating the natural repair, augmenting the natural repair process of the body that has been stretched to its limit. If you have a 65-year-old, those cells aren't dividing very well. The juice can help the cells divide faster and produce more repair molecules and make it better.
So do you think that it could take someone who's on a heart transplant list and literally fix their heart?
I've seen it happen time and again.
Wow.
And there are clinical trials using similar cell types that also have demonstrated that. There's a molecule called BNP, which is high in heart failure. The BNP came down in every single case. The ejection fraction, which measures kind of like the efficiency, how much blood your heart's pumping on each stroke, went up in every single patient. I think in the book, the craziest case was a gringo who was down in Costa Rica, and he was already, I don't know, he was probably 20-25% routinely, but he got a viral disease or something else, and he was 11% ejection fraction. Normal is about 60, and the regular hospital, who worked a lot with us with our spinal cord patients and seeing results, seeing people walking again, they just said, you can't get on a plane. You're at 3,700 feet. If you get on a plane, you'll be dead. You might as well go see these guys over at the stem cell place and see if anything can happen. And I think his case is in the book as well. But he went from, 11 to 42 or something like that. But he wasn't the first case. The first case was a doctor who's a friend of Georgie's, friend of Dr. Paws, our medical director, who had congenital. So his mother had died of heart failure. His sister had died. His brother had died. And he was, not even 50 years old, and his ejection fraction was, hovering around 30%. And a lot of people at an advanced age, you're not even going to get on the list, because if you're a 50 or 60 year old and there's a 20-year-old ahead of you, 20-year-old's going to win. And so he begged and begged to come down. He was our first patient. We didn't even really want to take him because we didn't know what was going to happen, because nobody had ever done it. And we treated him, and he went back, and he had a ejection fraction, he had an echocardiogram, and it was 52%. And then the doctor didn't believe it, so he redid it a month later, and it was 55%. So, it's not, I don't think it's for every case. I mean, you have people with like a super bad heart attack, and there's not enough to repair, and you really need a heart transplant. But I think you're going to see that it's ultimately, I think in 20 years, you're probably going to see standard of care for diseases, chronic diseases, like any chronic degenerative disease for which there's no good treatment. You're going to see standard of care is going to be young, healthy mesenchymal stem cells. Because if you look at the root cause, I get a question a lot, how is it these things work for so many things? Well, when the root cause is a lack of or dysfunction of those cells, then it makes sense that replenishing those or restoring them with young, healthy ones could be a useful treatment.
Well, Mel, this is so important to you that you wanted to come on and talk about this. You wanted to let people know about this shit.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, and it seems a crime to me that, it isn't easier to do in this country where, we're an advanced country. I mean, they should look a little harder at it, and it's a mystery to me why it isn't the case. But, hey, if there are places where one can go and get some help, it's good. I mean, I know a gal, she's a good friend of mine. She tore her shoulders up because she was like an athlete, and she had her shoulders done, and she got some dropped into her, and it actually helped greatly with an autoimmune disorder that she had, and then she was able to have kids. It was that kind of thing, So,
yeah, there's some really good animal data showing that you can inject these cells and you can take ovarian failure and reverse it. And in her case, she had an autoimmune disease, and she was unable to have children, told that from a very young age. And after treatment, she got pregnant pretty quickly.
This sounds almost too good to be true. This is almost like skeptical people that are listening to this right now are probably like, "Wow, this fucking shit cures everything."
Yeah. It sounds like the old spruiker on the corner. Good for moles, holes, and pimples on your what's.
But you've got studies. I mean, you've got real trials to back this up, and you've got a host of patients that are healed up and healthy.
Yeah, totally.
I don't even have anything wrong with me. I want to go down there and get shot up.
Well, if you see a 92-year-old man who's about ready to kick the bucket, and he's almost 100, he's going to celebrate 100 years in August. So, and
That's incredible.
He's better off than he was, let me tell you.